It is now 5:30. We'll call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day. Feliz Día del Amor y la Amistad. I'm happy to see everyone here today and hope everyone voted. It is 5:30. Welcome, everyone. Before we get started, I wanted to share a few thoughts and reminders. As this is a business meeting, we do expect those in attendance to conduct themselves in a respectful way. We would ask that you not interrupt in the meeting, but if there is an immediate need that you have, such an audio concern or question, you need to move to the back, let one of our staff members know. Also, as a reminder, there is a designated space for any video recording and or media. We want our boardroom to be a welcoming, safe space for all and any of our community members and guests. We want anyone who attends our meeting or anyone who addresses the board during the meeting to feel that they can do so, no matter who else is in attendance. That is the reason why we have asked in the past for our audience to refrain from clapping, cheering, or commenting while others give public comment, whether you are in support or against. We recognize that there are diverse beliefs and feelings across our stakeholders in our district, but one thing we can have in common is that we all want to do what is best for our children, and we are here today to work towards their future. With that being said, we will get started with our business meeting and items in our agenda. We will start with our roll call. Director Decker. Here. Director Sproul. Here. Director Barrows. Here. And Director Smith. Here. And I am also here, and we are in all attendance, so we have quorum. So the first item in our agenda is our superintendent report.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We're glad to see you this evening. A little cooler than it was last week, but we're really grateful to have school today. And it's always a good day when snow comes and we're able to still be in session. So, and we appreciate you taking the time to come out on a Valentine's night to join us this evening. I have a short superintendent's report, and then I have some guests here to update the board on some of the advisory and committee work that's been going on. First of all, we're about, I think, 5 or 6 weeks into the legislative session, and we're coming up on an important part of the legislative session, which is when the bill policy cutoff comes into play, and that's this Friday. And so typically there's a lot of legislation, proposed bills that are out there, and then after the cutoff day, those start to consolidate. And so we're able to kind of track things that may affect programs, policy, and our budget. And so there's a few things that we have been tracking. There's as you know, the board committed to advocating for special education funding at the state level. And there's a House bill and a Senate bill that are kind of progressing. And so at some point, one of those is going to kind of move forward, or they'll merge together. And so we're monitoring that. There's also been a lot of energy around transitional kindergarten. We have started some TK programs in Vancouver, and they've been very successful. And so looking at how we can potentially scale more of those programs and what the state's doing with funding is really important to be paying attention to. There's also some legislation about the transportation model, which there's general consensus that it's pretty outdated and archaic and hard to make sense of. And so the legislator is trying to potentially tackle that. But like any structure that's been in place for a while, it's pretty complicated and complex to untangle some of those things. So that's on the radar. There are also some legislations around cost of living adjustments, and those impact our contracts and what we do with our staff. So all of those are things that we're tracking. Also, another important date in the session is the last week of March, is when budgets are supposed to drop from the House and the Senate, and then the negotiations begin, and hopefully the conclusion of the session on time. So I'll continue to give updates in March and April, and hopefully at the conclusion they will be on time, because that does affect as we look to next year in our budget process. As Director Zavala noted, it's election day, so thank you to everyone that was able to vote already, and encourage people to get your ballots in if you haven't had a chance to do that yet. With that, I think I'm going to invite some guests to come forward, and the first guests are Clark and Nora, who are representing our student advisory.
Hello. My name is Clark. I'm a senior at Vancouver Tech Preparatory this year.
My name is Nora Van Rees. I'm also senior at the Vancouver School of Arts and Academics.
And we are both co-directors of the Student Advisory Group, which is an assembly of students from across all of our Vancouver Public Schools high schools, committed to increasing student belonging specifically in our school systems. So our update tonight is about our research project that we said at the beginning of our investigation that we wanted to end up coming with. Since last we met, we ended up deciding on an overall research question that we are beginning to develop. We chose these four from a bunch of listening sessions from our students. We toured some of our high school buildings to get a better understanding of exactly just how much our district varies in its student population size and makeup. And from these, we ended up voting to choose on the respect and empathy. How can we reinforce respect and empathy within our school community? We thought that this would tie in most with our sense of belonging and tie in all these other factors of student and staff relationships and inclusive practices, as well as resources.
So now that we have chosen our research question, our next focus for the student advisor group is how can we take our research question and what we want to see happen with student experience in the district, and what can we do as a tangible step to make that happen? So as a group, from student discussion and discussion with Dr. Snell and discussion amongst ourselves, we decided that a community leadership summit would be the best opportunity for students to have an opportunity to come together, be together, learn more about leadership, and also reinforce those principles of respect, empathy, and belonging in our district. So this leadership development conference, as we would call it, would be held on April 26th. This would be an accessible event for students who might have not had the opportunity to get involved in a leadership role or get the opportunity to connect with other peers to get to engage in that. So that's our shared message for what we want to accomplish and how our plan will make that happen concretely. Additionally, one other thing the Student Advisory Committee would like to share is our plan for May. After our community leadership event has concluded, we will take our findings we find from our community leadership event and implement that into a May Mental Health Awareness Month. A lot of our student advisory focus has been on student outcomes and students' feelings of belonging, respect, empathy, and success at school. And we tie a lot of that back to mental health, right? So we wanted to focus on mental health because consistently, when we look at the panorama data, we notice that if mental health improves among students and staff, outcomes will improve as well. So that's why in May, we want to focus on a mental health awareness project, specifically teaching mental health to students and staff to help improve those outcomes in our district. Thank you. We would like to welcome the board to ask us any questions regarding our presentation.
I have a question to follow up about the leadership summit. It sounds like it's open to anyone who wants to be involved in leadership, like anyone, any age level, mostly like high schoolers, or like what's kind of the audience?
Yeah, so we have recently developed this idea for the Community Leadership Summit, and the logistics are still in the works, but our plan as of now is to have it be for high schoolers in VPS, a combination of students selected by principals, having our student advisory group serve as kind of the leaders and facilitators of the leadership activities and facilitated discussions we'll have on that day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being up here and representing the student advisory, and we will update on March on those plans as they materialize. We do have 2 sessions scheduled for March, one Zoom and one at Hudson's Bay High School. And the students have reported really enjoying going to the other schools and giving each other tours and talking about just the environment of the schools. And so our last meeting was at Flex Academy, and it's a pretty small school if people haven't been there. But it was just fun to listen to the excitement of the students sharing that space. And we typically share food as well, which is always a positive. So thank you. The next update that we have is from our Strategic Planning Steering Committee Advisory Board. And we're going to ask Bill Oman and Janelle Ephraim to come forward. And then we have some members of the committee as well to just give an update to the board on this part of the of our strategic planning process. And then we will, after their presentation, we will have an update from our partners that help us through the strategic planning process. So Mr. Oman.
Thank you, Dr. Snell. Thank you, board. Great to see so many community members here for this strategic planning update. I'm Bill Oman, one of the executive directors of School and Learning, and this is Janelle Ephraim. And so we co-facilitate our strategic planning steering committee, which is made up of folks from all of our other advisory committees. So I'm going to turn it over to Janelle.
Good evening. Good to see everyone. I'd like to introduce two of our representatives. We have Nora Van Rees. She's our student representative from the student advisory that you just heard from. And then we also have Dawn Choi. She's our representative from our equity advisory committee. Welcome.
Thank you for everybody for being here. What we're presenting today has to do with our strategic plan, purpose, and roles and responsibilities. And that's what we'll go over today, and a little bit of our future planning as well. So you'll see where we're at and where we're going. All right, so our purpose is to advise the strategic planning process, and that we're advisors in that process. The roles that we play, there's several of us that are on this planning committee, and we seek input and recommendations, from other of our VPS advisory committees. And there's several of them that go together, and there's the community advisory group, the family advisory group, student advisory group, staff advisory group, and the equity advisory group. To combine together, we can make a lot of changes. We can also make a lot of recommendations to the board, and hopefully bring some of our expertise to the table. So we participate in developing goals as well for specific themes or focus areas that are out there for the strategic plan. We just had a meeting already, and so we're serving as an ambassador to the board and the stakeholders, soliciting input, encouraging involvement in the strategic planning process. We want a lot of input. We want information. We want to hear from everyone of what should be in the strategic plan. We provide recommendations of the vision and our strategic plan to the board and our superintendent for consideration. So we bring recommendations that we come up with and planning that we do, and we bring that to them so they can review that. And then what we do is we'll provide updates to the board monthly. And so you'll see two of our members from the strategic plan come and rotate through this board meeting to give you an update month to month. So you'll hear different parts of the process that we're going through. So each month it'll be something different. This is your overview for this month. And then each month you'll see where we're at and where we're going. And I'll bring it to Nora.
Thank you so much, Dawn. So as you might have heard from Dawn, there's a lot that we're trying to accomplish with this steering committee, right? So we have a timeline mapped out for you all to look at. So starting in February this month, we will be reviewing preliminary community engagement feedback and providing feedback on engagement gaps. So what this means is we're going to look at the feedback that we've already received from different stakeholder groups in the district and finding who are we not hearing from, right? So we're wanting to fill those gaps and make sure that we're listening to all the stakeholders in the district and using their feedback as guaranteed to make our changes. Then coming up in March, we're going to update community engagement and seek input on sample final plan products. So looking at What could our final plan look like and what do we need to get there? Then in April, a few months down the line, we're going to be reviewing our draft community engagement report and seeking input on strategic plan framework. So just diving deeper into that strategic planning process whilst continuing to use the feedback from key stakeholder groups along the way. Then in June, as the school year is wrapping up, we'll be reviewing final community engagement report material, reviewing strategic. It's a little far, not wearing my glasses tonight, but thank you all for bearing with me. Update planning work to be done through the summer, leading to a draft plan review in September. So continuing to refine and review our strategic plan while continuing to listen to our stakeholders, which I think is the key to this strategic planning committee. It's hearing from all those different groups that many of us are part of. All right. And then lastly, for next steps in February, coming up this month, we will be reviewing preliminary community feedback and providing engagement gaps. So as I mentioned, what groups are we listening to now and who do we still need to hear from? And then in March, we will have 2 community board members to share out that preliminary engagement feedback with you all at the next board meeting. Thank you. We'll like to ask the board if they have any questions regarding our presentation.
I really excited how much community is involved and how much our VPS community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so our third presentation, I'd invite Katie Dye forward, and Katie is a representative from Point North. And as you know, Point North was here in the January board meeting to give an update. There are consultants in the strategic planning process. They're a local company here. Katie is a former graduate of VPS, and so we're really grateful to have her on board. And then we've had a couple of events that she's going to update you on, and just kind of that timeline from a larger standpoint beyond just the steering committee. So Katie, welcome.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Snell. Good evening, community members and board directors. I am Katie Dye, a part of Point North Consulting, as Director Snell mentioned, the consulting firm supporting the strategic planning process alongside the district. As a VPS graduate, I am immensely proud to be a part of this process and help support what hopes to be a really successful vision guided by really fantastic community engagement. So I'm here tonight to share a little bit about what that's looked like so far. I think Dawn and Nora shared some insight into this advisory committee aiding in a really robust community process. And so just more insight into what that's looked like. On the screen, you're going to see a visual of a graphic which really helps capture a really big milestone that we had as part of our community engagement process in January. So the last time we presented to you all, we provided an update of the community engagement data to date, who we've heard from, who we're still looking to hear from, what types of activities we are actively out in the community engaging in. And since then, we hosted a thought leadership event for community leaders in our community. At that event, which was at VITA, we saw a little over 70 community leaders participate in a really robust conversation. Those 70 leaders represented stakeholder groups and markets of our community, ranging from leaders who represent community-based organizations, small businesses, architecture firms, law firms, educators. It was a really vast array of individuals kind of weighing in on what does the future of the district look like, and how can we best support our students' future. So the themes up here are really able to kind of highlight what happened in those conversations. We had a live graphics artist on site with us to help draw exactly what was being heard in that space. So while you weren't in that space with us, we hope this provides a lens into what was happening in that space. We had table discussions, which were guided by the team, and we heard themes around what the district is doing well, what the district can improve, what future initiatives should the district lean into, what we need to do as leaders within our community to help prepare students for their future. And those are all kind of the themes that are highlighted up there. We also asked notably about what are those core values that are really going to guide this this strategic plan. And what are some of those key characteristics of a Vancouver public school graduate? And so on the far, I know this is very challenging to see, but the far corner, the far top right-hand corner of this graphic, you'll see some of those core values. And within that, there was a lot of discussion around how to build inclusive environments, touching on building belonging in the schools for students and for staff. So incredibly relevant to, I think, what Clark and Nora were speaking about the Student Advisory Committee working on. How to ensure that we're creating safe spaces, so physical safety and psychological safety within the building for both staff and for students and for community members. The characteristics of a graduate, you saw a lot about graduates feeling like they're confident in knowing what their next steps look like and they're feeling prepared for that. So those are some of kind of the notable themes from that conversation. Again, it was a really great conversation with community members. Many of them left the room feeling valued to be a part of such conversation and want to lean in and be ambassadors to invite others from their network and from their community to be a part of the conversation as well, which was a big goal for that effort. So with that, a kind of brief update about some additional engagement. We know you're probably thinking, okay, so what's next? Where are we headed? How are we going to take all this community engagement data and work that towards the final plan? So that's what this graphic is hoping to add some insight into, is we are taking on a really robust process, and we're ensuring that it's incredibly iterative, making sure that not only are we meeting with advisory committees throughout this entire process, but that we also have the opportunity to make sure there's checks and balances with community, to make sure we spent time asking you a bunch of questions about how we're doing and what the future needs to look like. This is what we heard. Is that accurate? Is that correct? Are we is that really what we captured? So we've spent a few months now. I think actually it started in June with some community engagement, but really kicked off in the fall. We've been doing community engagement through listening sessions and surveys since the fall. That will continue, but we are in this moment where we're digging through a lot of data. So there's a lot of engagement data that we have our hands in, and we're doing qualitative and quantitative analysis around to make sure that we're really bringing those themes to the table. What we're going to do with those themes, that data analysis themes, is we're going to move that into a strategic plan framework. So what is that framework, as I believe Nora spoke to? What is that final plan, that product, going to look like? Well, it's going to highlight what those priorities are. So we're going to do some digging into that data. We're going to engage the Strategic Advisory Committee in that process. So it's really a participatory process. And then we're going to start to mold those key initiatives. So based off of what the community has told us, what stakeholders have told us the future initiative should be, we'll start to identify what are our priorities. And then the district will lean in and we'll start to build out, if these are our priorities, test that with the community, and then start to build out goals and metrics around that. So great, we have key priorities and we have goals. How are we going to know if we're successful in that or not? What are those measurements of success going to look like? And we'll lean in on figuring out, what does that look like? Is it test scores? Is it sense of belonging surveys? What does that need to look like for the district and its planning efforts? We hope to have a draft plan by end of summer, early fall, to be able to feed back to the Strategic Planning Advisory Committee for insight into, and to the board. So ideally, come the fall, the board would have insight into a draft plan prior to moving to a full vote for approval on a final plan. So you'll have insight into that. So again, incredibly iterative process of us doing some work with the advisory committees, feeding it back to our work with district leadership, bringing that back out to the committee, and then coming back and doing that all over again, back and forth, to make sure it's incredibly inclusive. We know that best practice for an inclusive strategic planning process is a transparent one. So hopefully this provides a little bit of insight into where we're at and where we're headed. Great, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Katie.
Yeah.
I had a question. The graphic before this that was made from the community leadership event, is that posted online anywhere? Just if anybody wants to I've seen it, but I know others might not. So is that available online somewhere in case people want to zoom in and look at all the comments? Or
We've actually resisted posting it.
Okay.
Because we didn't want people to think that this was an event and part of a data set.
Oh.
And so as we process through it, we want to make sure that it's given the same value as all the other data that come in. And then we will post it once we have a better reflection of all the things that we're hearing. But it's not like it's a secret or anything. We just didn't want people to feel like, oh, that's the plan, when it hasn't been refined yet. So.
Great. And I do want to say thank you to Chair Zavala and Director Barros for their participation in this event as well. It's really great to have you both there. So thank you.
Yeah, that concludes my report. So I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. So now, today we have extra special day of recognition. Today we will be recognizing our employee excellence special, and our employee athletic recognition and our teachers, correct? National board certification. Yes, there we go. So first we will start with our excellence awards. Tonight, the board will recognize the recipients of the February Employee Excellence Awards. Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read the name of each recipient and a short blurb describing why they have chosen to receive this award, why they were chosen to receive this award. If you're a recipient, once your blurb is read, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your plaque. Please then pause for an individual photo in front of the backdrop. At this time, the recipient may return to their seat, but please do not leave yet, as we would like to take a group photo after all recipients have received their plaque. We will repeat this process with the other award winners until everyone's name and blurb have been read and they have received their plaque. After the final recipient is awarded, the others will be invited for a group photo with the board president and superintendent Jeff Snow. If you choose to leave after this group photo is taken, we ask that you exit quietly. And I also just mentioned that we can applaud during this time. We want to celebrate. So this is the time that we can applaud. Thank you. Jeff.
Thank you, Chair Zavala. It's time to recognize the February Employee Excellence Award recipients. The following employees were selected by a committee of their peers for commitment to the students and staff of Vancouver Public Schools. These recipients were among the many outstanding nominees who create a caring environment and positive workplace through their exceptional efforts. For information about each recipient or to submit a nomination, please visit the district's website. Our first recipient is Benjamin Boughton, music teacher from Fort Vancouver High School. Benjamin Boughton has taught music throughout the district, but is truly a standout at Fort Vancouver. His energy and enthusiasm for music really resonate with students, many of whom sing his praises. He does so much to make sure our choir is perfect and we can be the best we can be, says one student. From putting together concert programs to working individually with students, Benjamin puts in the work to bring out the music program's full potential. Benjamin has cultivated a kinship amongst music students that will be remembered well past their graduation. Bravo, Benjamin. Our next recipient is Brittany Harvey, SEC paraeducator at Discovery Middle School. Brittany Harvey consistently goes above and beyond to make students of all backgrounds feel warm, welcomed, and well prepared to take on the day. Her work as a structured communications paraeducator allows her to build meaningful relationships with Discovery students that evolve into impactful learning experiences. Brittany brings an exceptional work ethic, a personalized approach, and a deep level of care to everything she does. Leading with compassion and empathy, Brittany is an excellent role model for students and a fantastic colleague for staff. Thank you, Brittany. Our next recipient is April Hagewald. April Hagewald is an incredible paraeducator who consistently surpasses expectations. She's deeply invested in helping the Hazeldale community thrive and serves as PTA president and a Lighthouse leadership team member. She also volunteers her time to projects around the building. Her efforts have a real tangible impact on the well-being of students and the effectiveness of the school as a whole. April is an active presence at recess, not only monitoring students, but actively teaching them interpersonal and problem-solving skills. A colleague remarks, her caring dedication and absolute joy for what she does radiates to everyone she comes across. Thank you, April. Our next recipient is Steve Lorenz, CTE and horticulture teacher at Hudson's Bay High School. Steve Lorenz has managed the award-winning horticulture program at Hudson's Bay for over a decade. His leadership has led the program to great success, including numerous FFA competition wins, taking home the grand prize for Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow national contest in 2015, and bringing in tens of thousands of dollars each year during the annual plant sale. Students graduate from the program with a deep understanding of horticulture, thanks to Steve's tactile learning approach and emphasis on making learning fun. Thank you, Steve. Our next recipient is Lissa Potter, counselor at Hudson's Bay High School. Lissa Potter is a great asset to the Hudson's Bay community. Her role as a counselor makes her a vital resource for information and an advocate for students. Whether it's navigating stressful schedules, helping students treat one another with kindness, or tackling other challenges, Lissa listens carefully and acts quickly. Every need, big or small, is addressed with care, and she works diligently to find a solution. Parents note that she is extremely understanding of all situations and willing to work collaboratively to find solutions. One parent remarks, "It's a real blessing to have Lissa Potter on our team." Thank you, Lissa.
And 1, 2, 3. Wonderful. Congratulations.
We will now go into the National Board Certification. We will recognize our teachers who have earned their National Board Certification. Executive Director of Human Resources, Jeff Fish, will read a brief remark and then read the name of each teacher. If you are a recipient, please walk to the podium so we may present you with your certificate. Please then pause for an individual photo in front of the backdrop. We will repeat this process with all honorees until everyone's name has been read and they have received their certificates. After the final person is acknowledged, the others will be invited back for the group photo with the board president and Superintendent Jeff Snow. If you choose to leave after this group photo is taken, we ask that you exit quietly.
Thank you, Chair Zavala. Tonight, we recognize our teachers who have earned National Board Certification over the last 3 years. The National Board Certification is the most respected professional certification available in education and provides numerous benefits to teachers, students, and schools. It was designed to develop, retain, and recognize accomplished teachers and to generate ongoing improvement in schools nationwide. Our National Board certified teachers for the 2020-2021 year: Wesley Ballou, Roosevelt Elementary; Jamie Bassett, McLaughlin Middle School; Anthony Shine, Vita; Trish Smith, Geyser Middle School. Our 2021-2022 National Board Certified Teachers. Kristen Bream, King Elementary. Mary Gonzalez Johnson, Hudson's Bay High School. Shannon Stewart, iTech Prep. And our 2022-2023 National Board Certified Teachers. Lisa Freeman, Sacagawea Fruit Valley Elementary. Bradley Lehman, iTech Preparatory. And Tyler Stanley, McLaughlin Middle School.
Lots of celebrations today. Our championship teams, tonight we also recognize two state championship teams. Athletic Director Jennifer Johnson will introduce the Columbia River Girls soccer coach, who will offer brief remarks about the season and introduce coaches and players. After the soccer team is recognized, Jennifer will introduce the Columbia River Girls volleyball coach, who will offer brief remarks about the season and introduce coaches and players. For both teams, as names are read, individuals should stand and remain standing until everyone on the team is introduced. Following the remarks, all honorees will be seated. Certificates will be distributed by the coaches after the meeting. If you choose to leave after this group photo is taken, we ask that you exit quietly. Thank you.
To thank the board for allowing us the opportunity to recognize river excellence and our outstanding Columbia River Rapids athletes tonight. I can imagine it is fairly rare that an athletic director has the opportunity to recognize two state championships, one within 5 minutes of each other, but that's what we're going to do tonight. It's pretty awesome. So at this time, I'd like to introduce to you one of my outstanding colleagues, Philomena Finnegas, to introduce our girls soccer team.
So once again, I just want to echo what Jen Johnson said. Thank you guys so much for having us here. It's an honor to be here in front of you guys. It's obviously been an amazing season for the girls soccer team. And I can sit up here and talk to you about all these stats and metrics and things we accomplished. And while the state championship was absolutely amazing, I mean, that's the pinnacle, for every team hopes to try to get there. What kind of gets lost as well too is all the memories that were created, whether it was on the bus ride, team dinners, and realistically, that's become a big focal point of our program. It's not so much the wins and losses. I mean, yes, we'd all rather win, right? That feels great, but creating an amazing experience for players was always kind of been how we kind of see it as coaches and how we want to lead the program and lead the team. And I think once you really focus on that process, the product kind of takes care of itself. And so we've had some amazing leaders. We always talk about legacy as well too, and we're always really leaning into the seniors and the juniors about helping us add to what was there before you and leaving it better for those that come after. And our senior group and junior group did absolutely amazing. And so I'm going to go ahead and call their names. And we have some individuals who weren't able to make it tonight. I'm still going to say their names, but I would also love to call the girls up here as well too, and then we can recognize them. First is our goalkeeper, Aaliyah Russ. And then we have Bella Graves, Julia Rapp, Ivy Henderson, Amelie Miller, Mari Seibel, Ava Esslinger, Andy Buckley, Sydney Stimmel, Paige Johnson, Avery Siegel, Naomi Axelrod, Logan Dukes, Kinsey Drake, Rachel Haggerty, Peyton Dukes, Ava Lipinskis, Josephine Diaz, Maylin Smith, Elise Maffeo, Rhea Jansen, Lily Michael, and from the coaching staff, we have Ryan Callahan, Matt Newman, Hannah Hatfield, Geneva Perez, Brendan Newsom, and Eddie Perez. So yeah, give him a big round of applause.
Team picture?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. And 1, 2, 3.
And to follow, I'd like to introduce Brianne Smedley, our head girls volleyball coach.
Thank you, board, for allowing us to recognize these amazing, phenomenal athletes. And I feel incredibly honored to be surrounded by this group of talented, hardworking, kind student athletes. Anyone that has been to any one of our matches knows that they're fiercely competitive and really good at volleyball. But what you might not know, and what I get to see on a daily basis from these girls, is that they're also deeply committed to the process and the hard work that is required to achieve at this level. They're very kind friends and loyal teammates to one another. They're intelligent and hardworking in the classroom. Every single one of them was a scholar athlete this season. And they are humble, despite every reason not to be, as two-time state champs. They are state champions, but they're also an incredible group of young women who represent Columbia River High School and VPS. Now, like Philly, we also talk a lot about being connected to our history and also to our future, knowing that the path that we are on has been made possible by those who have come before us, while also leaving a legacy for those to come afterwards. And these young women have done a phenomenal job of being role models for our community to the youth, while also providing their unique stamp on this program. Now, this championship represents not just one person or one team, it's a reflection of the support that we have received on all sides from this journey. So for that, I want to thank again every single parent, fan, coach, official, and administrator who has contributed to this championship for the River community. I'm going to read the names of our team and our coaches, that is here. Okay, so we have Tegan Benke, Stephanie Bushy, Logan DeYoung, Lauren Dreves, Sydney Dreves, Caitlin Kessler, Macy McCoy, Ellie Oji, Sasha Pelkey, Dominique Phelps, Evie Wenger, Sophie Warden, and Coach Luke Carlson.
Next on our agenda, we have audience participation, citizen comments. Citizen comments is a time in our meeting where the board and administrative staff like to hear comments from the public. If you wish to address the board and did not have an opportunity to sign in at the start of the meeting, please do so now. Because most matters require fact-finding and review, the board is not able to respond to any public comments made at this time. Additionally, the state's Open Public Meetings Act restricts for deliberation on topics that have not been placed on publicly noticed agendas in advance. If follow-up action is necessary, the board will ask the superintendent to work with the administrative staff to consider the information and respond accordingly. As the regular business meeting of the board, we expect the audience to conduct themselves professionally and courteously. Additionally, speakers are expected to be respectful. The board asks the personnel complaints to be submitted in writing. Disrupting conduct may cause the meeting to be adjourned and all audience members to be removed. We ask that you approach the podium and state your name for the record. Please also state your affiliation with the district. You will have 3 minutes to make your comments. If you hear a chime, please conclude your remarks. If you have materials or additional comments you would like the board to review, please hand them to the staff in the back of the boardroom. This information will be provided to the superintendent and the board. The board appreciates, listens, and cares about the broad range of perspectives in our community. We thank you for your comments. First, we will start with our virtual comments. So I believe Pearl Griffin. Oh, you're here. Okay, great. We will first do the virtual, then have you up. Wendy Moose. When you are ready, please state your name and affiliation to the district. You will have 3 minutes, Wendy. Wendy, we're ready for you.
Can you hear me now? Sorry. Yes, okay. Good evening. My name is Wendy and I work as a teacher in the district. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm here tonight because I am tired of watching this happen. It's not okay. It's unacceptable. There are certain groups of people that hate others and want to exclude them. It's called othering. Othering is putting people in an out group and then assuming they're all the same. This typically is done to vulnerable groups of people and is done with the intent of dehumanizing them. Dehumanizing is reducing the value of the people in that out group to less than human. This othering is essential in order to justify their hate and ultimate fight against them. The othering justifies excluding these people from dominant groups. This fact alone is why they hate inclusion and diversity. This is why they hate the equity policies of the district. They do not like our efforts to rehumanize these groups of people. Rehumanizing is the opposite of dehumanization. It's giving dignity and human qualities back to the people who are at risk of having it taken away. That's what we are doing in this district, and just one example is our focus on a sense of belonging and empathy. I am thankful to work in a district that is progressive and inclusive. We are doing great work. Our children deserve it and our future depends on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Next is Chase Kirkpatrick. Chase, when you're ready, please state your name and affiliation, and you have 3 minutes. We're ready for you, Chase.
Hi, sorry, I was muted. All right, so I am Chase Kirkpatrick. I have students in VPS, and LaDonna Kirkpatrick actually signed up a little before me so she could give me her time.
I'm here.
We actually only, we don't have that in our procedures
Oh.
anymore.
All right, well, then I'm gonna have to trim some stuff, so I'll do my best. All right, so I've heard that some plan to revisit some old complaints about a book called Genderqueer, a memoir. I'd hoped to go a little later to be sure that rumor was correct and tailor my prepared remarks appropriately, but that clearly didn't work out. Folks are calling this book, and some books like it, pornographic, which is a handy word for anyone who wants to lock up content they find objectionable. I think most everyone agrees libraries shouldn't stock pornography, and to my knowledge, they don't. Some consider books on sexual wellness and sexual identity pornographic solely because they address or depict sexual topics. Those things aren't intrinsically pornographic, though. Gratuitous nudity usually is. Without indication of intent or context, much can be mistaken for it, but the context of a whole work is what distinguishes some art from pornography. I've read dozens of unfavorable reviews about this book. Some focus on the storytelling, but most seem to focus on a handful of frames on non-consecutive pages, not gratuitous. Comparatively few critics have much to say about the rest of the novel. I do understand why those sections were problematic for some. However, those moments furthered the narrative while being somewhat clinical and in some cases intentionally disgusting, which is definitely not intended for the titillation of the reader. You can expect someone who didn't bother to read the book to pick up on that, though. This book is missing something that I had come to understand as a normal and inevitable part of queer adolescence. The story never describes suicidal ideation. Suicide is 4 times more likely among LGBTQ teenagers than their peers overall. The meaningful difference between teens as a whole in this subgroup is the isolation, stigma, ire, and fear of violence foisted upon them by their families, communities, and peers. If this author made it through adolescence without ever thinking about it, it's because of the family and friends who lifted them up instead of making them feel worse. Far too many teens know they can't turn to their parents or their friends. By the time they reach puberty, they've had a lifetime of muttered comments to make it all too clear. They'll pretend to be something they're not, at least part-time, until they can move far, far away, living under constant fear of inadvertently being outed and then rejected by their family. Media like this is the only lifeline some have. Things may be better now than they were 25 years ago, but let's not kid ourselves. People are still demanding we ban a book about coping with being queer because of what? 4 non-consecutive pages, maybe 6. It's a powerful indicator we're still dealing with people who use the word pornography to lock away content they don't approve of and very clumsily draw a line or a connection between all LGBTQIA people and pedophiles. The link, of course, is nothing more than the fact that some want the world to extend the same suspicion, hostility, and contempt they have for child predators to the tiny sliver of the population hated by so many solely for being born different. Then parlay that hostility into the removal of those people from their positions at schools, public offices, and anywhere else they might be seen living their ordinary lives, being a threat to nobody. Queer books don't groom anyone. All right, so sorry. Looks like I'm out of time. The last thing I really want to say is that I think that on this topic, the district might want to take a look at how many books they offer that deal with the issue of coping with coming of age.
Thank you, Chase. We will now have LaDonna Kirkpatrick.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Donna, thank you.
Hi, yes. I was gonna give my time to my husband, but I couldn't do that. So I'm just gonna kind of finish off what he was saying. That, you know, there isn't many books that apply to people of these minority, and just finding one can change their life. Something that can give them a sense of belonging and a sense of just self-acceptance. And I really hope that you guys, when you're considering this book, you guys choose not to ban it. We need it. Kids that identify this way have a high suicide rate because they feel alone. They don't have family. They don't have friends they can turn to. They need something. So please consider that when you guys are looking at this book. And that would be all.
Thank you, Donna. So that concludes with our Zoom comments. We will now proceed with our in-person comments. I believe we'll start with Pearl Griffin, since you. How about I'll just go through this then? I'll follow the line. Heather Vian.
My name is Heather Vian, and I am a mother in the school district. First of all, I'd like to thank this board and the committee. Last month when I came and talked, I'm happy to report that the school that my children attend is now saying the Pledge of Allegiance, thanks to the efforts of this board. So I want to acknowledge that. I also want to thank the teachers that are working with me personally at Sarah J. Anderson with the SEL supplemental instruction. And I just want to give acknowledgement to them today. And thirdly, I have been in conversations with our principal at Sarah J. Anderson over the phone about the placement of specific flags in the school. They are the LGBTQ flags, and they do represent a portion of the population of the community, but they do not represent the whole. The American flag, like the one behind me, and the Washington state flag represent the population as a whole and are in the school, and but they do not take the center stage like the LGBTQ flags in that school. In talking to the teacher, the principal, her statement to me was she unapologetically affirms and validates the identities and lived experiences of our students, and will specifically make every effort to ensure that students from historically marginalized groups now that they are welcome, valued, and respected for who they are. This is in alignment with VPS. She looks forward to when they can do more than just put a flag up. My response to her is this, that I do disagree with her on this matter. The elevation of any group, whether they're major or minor, over any other group creates a breeding ground for an us versus them mentality, which then further leads to division, hate, and racism. We need to learn from the past and stop redirecting hate to different groups.
Thank you, Heather. Michael Giuliano.
Hello, I'm Mike Giuliano. I've been here before. And I'm a community member. This was brought to my attention. This flyer, as you can see, I don't quite understand how this can be distributed through something we pay as taxpayers. This crap, I can understand everybody should have access to a service, but to promote pride for younger kids, that's just wrong. And my kids are not in the school district because of crap like this, We pulled them out 2019, 2020, and I will never put them back again. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Now we have Katie Bauer.
Hello, Katie Bauer, Vancouver resident. This legislative session, Washington State Attorney General Bob Ferguson has authored HB, House Bill 1333, so that we can be the very first state to create a quote, domestic violent extremism commission, end quote. Domestic violent extremism apparently has become a public health issue as described in the bill and is set to create a Washington state level censorship program to regulate the speech of Washington residents. Let me repeat that, to regulate the speech of Washington state residents. This bill is directed in part at those of us who come to speak at school board meetings. It sets up a situation that if we disagree with a government entity, we could be considered violent extremists. A local Washington-based newspaper ran an editorial titled, "Treat violent extremism as the disease it is." So could parents be considered diseased? Some main points the bill wants to address, and I do want to point out that this bill is only to form a committee to observe, collect, monitor, and surveil. It wants to combat disinformation and misinformation, address early signs of radicalization, develop public health style responses, evaluate any future data tracking recommendations around domestic violent extremism, including how data is collected, evaluate current legal tools, both criminal and civil, make recommendations for potential new legislation and regulations to address domestic violent extremism. The proponents of this bill were adamant that the word terrorist not be used and instead use the word violent extremism or extremist. When I was watching one of the committee hearings, a committee member asked those that wrote the bill to define extremism, and they said they didn't have a definition for that term. A report was prepared for the AG's office that explains more about the kind of speech that would not be allowed. Categories of forbidden speech mentioned in a report supporting the bill include speaking about anti-critical race, anti-masks, anti-vaccines. Activities that could be deemed extreme include protests and disruptions at school board meetings. There was no mention of things like chop activities. So if you take over and close off blocks of a city for days, you're not a violent extremist. Last night, this bill was heard in the Appropriations Committee, and at last count, over 3,000 people registered a con vote, asking the members of the Appropriations Committee not to send it to the floor for a vote. So we shall see by the end of this school year, we will be monitored for our words used at school board meetings. I would encourage all of you to pay attention to what's happening in Olympia. This isn't the only bill that I'm watching that has to do with school boards and children in general, but 1333, kind of scary.
Next, we have Mike Hardeloo.
My name is Mike Hartlow. I'm a lifelong Clark County resident, but new to the Vancouver schools. Just moved here 7 months ago I've been in the county my whole life, but in the Vancouver school district. And I didn't get a chance because I wanted to. There was that genderqueer pornography topic. Several weeks ago, I was out of town. I could not attend, and it was during the day. So I wanted to use this platform to do so. I would disagree strongly with Mr. Kirkpatrick on the pornography content. I would quite confident that you could pass the images that I saw to the average household, say late 20s to late 50s that would have school age children. And I would say the vast majority would call that pornographic. Switching the words around, the verbiage, I just disagree severely with him. And not too long ago, if a kid brought that to school and it wasn't that book, it would have been expelled. Parents would have been talked to, but because it's in the library, it's okay. And I'm almost more appalled that book passed and is allowed in that high school. That's appalling. And from my understanding, what's even a little bit more appalling is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but one person has the ultimatum that that book can stay or go. And to my understanding, it's the librarian. And why is it one person has that rule to dictate if that book stays or goes? I don't say this in brazen or pounding my chest because I want the best for the kids and the teachers to be successful because they are our next generation. But I don't say this to pound my chest, but I voted no on the levy or the bond. I'm sorry, I don't know if it was levy or bond, but I voted no for it for that reason. And I'm not doing that to pound my chest and be arrogant, but I'm just, you as a board and the members, that's why our schools can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Now we have John Gira.
Hi, my name's John Gerard. My wife, Vina, has been a teacher in the school district at McLaughlin and Walnut Grove for the last 25 years or so, maybe a little less. I am a home builder, own a company called Quail Homes. The last time I was at this podium really was on a campaign for the Gatehouse. For those that know the Gatehouse, I was strong-armed by Dr. Parsley, not only to help campaign, but actually build it. So now I'm here to build something else. A couple of things that I'm really working on, not just here with your school district, but with other schools, is to advance CTE education, in particular construction. Just to give you a couple of things to think about, 1 in 4 construction workers is over 55. That practical knowledge of 55 plus was trained by a craftsman. As you go down in the age group of workers, the skill set, there's a skills gap. It isn't just construction, it's a lot of different industries. And I actually want to help with that, and I'm building a coalition to do so. One of them that has really jumped on board, of course, here is Dr. Snell and Bill Ullman, along with Mark Reith, the CTE director for the district. He handed me this the other day, and this is, I can leave this with you, Washington Association of Career Tech Ed. There's a lobbying group for them in Olympia. There's 8 pathways to graduate, one being CTE. A couple of years ago, 11% of the statewide students chose that path. In 2022, 42% chose it. We're under structure. The structure isn't there to support the interest of the kids. Hudson's Bay is going to be a magnet for construction, which I'm supporting. I want to share the great work of Eric Gunderson there. Eric had a student I judged last Friday at a Skills USA competition. Your culinary program at Fort competes in that. They have one for construction, and he had 4 kids there, and they're in, I would call, substandard learning center right now, which we're going to improve over time. But he had a kid take 5th and 8th as a first-time competitor, and bringing employers in to see these kids. It's great work. A couple of things that I want to share with you is there's going to be a grand opening at Evergreen. I approached their school board and superintendent about 1.5 years ago. They'll be finishing a skilled trade center there, and grand opening is in May. I'd like to invite you guys and show you what's possible. And I have a prop here. Skilled trades improves lives. But what this really reflects is I learned from an upstate New York company, somebody that works for Curtis Lumber. It's similar to like Par Lumber. And they support youth in the trades. And they supply these pre-cut for 5th to 7th graders, much like, think of like a green eggs and ham that Mark Mathias puts on. I'd like to do something similar for your grade school and junior high kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have Kim Sloan.
A 10-second head start. I don't have any props. My name is Kim Sloan, and I teach in the Open Doors program at the Heights campus, where I've been since moving to Vancouver in 2014. I first taught Back on Track and then VLA, and I've been a part of the Open Doors team since about 2017. I have 2 daughters, both in high school, one at River. You met her, she won the state championship. And the other at VSAA who was in the pit orchestra and competed for the Ethics Bowl. And so my Vote VPS yard sign has been out since late January. I returned my levy approval ballot the day I received it, and I've been very public about asking my neighbors to do the same. All of this was framed around how levy dollars have provided opportunities for my own children to participate in pro-social activities, a thing that we know is a documented protective factor in kids. However, what I've not alluded to is my disappointment about the disproportionate allocation of levy dollars to support my students. Here are some details about the Heights campus, which you may or may not know. We have historically been used as an intervention by the district, yet not provided the supports necessary to properly care for the students sent to us. Most of our students are on campus only 1 day a week for 2.5 hours. This isn't because it's best practice. It's because we don't have the FTE or the space to bring them more often. We outgrew our school before we even had permission to occupy it. We're the only school in the district that is not provided district-funded busing for all of its students and never has. We finally have motion in that department, though, with a plan to offer transportation for our Hope students. However, for Open Doors, that's only about 12% of our students. We're the only high school that does not have a DRO. We finally got a part-time prevention intervention specialist, but we have to hope that our kids with substance abuse issues attend on the days our PI is on campus. And we finally hired a part-time FCRC. We have to hope that our kids and families that need extended services attend on the day they're on campus. My understanding is that the process to qualify Heights as a school of choice has begun and that many of these issues may be resolved. In the meantime, we wanted this board to know what we're experiencing and what the data shows. Pearl and I, she's going to talk in a second, were able to sit down with Dr. Snell last week and share this data with him, and she'll talk more about that during her 3 minutes. We are very proud of the castles we're building at Heights with a few sticks and some duct tape. The Open Doors team really are curricular vanguards, and we're constantly dreaming of what we could do with the proper funding and supports. We want to be on your radar, and we want to extend the invitation again to come visit our classroom, see what we're doing, hear from our students, and talk to us about our vision. And we want to thank you for listening tonight. We look forward to being a part of the conversations around change at Heights.
Thank you. Now we have Pearl Griffin.
Hi, my name is Pearl Griffin. My pronouns are she, her, and I am following up my teaching partner, Ms. Sloan. We have been a team for several years at Heights, previously Leaser. Throughout, we both did Back on Track, we both did VLA, and through a lot of those challenges, we have really seen what our students are capable of. And these are students who are and have been historically underserved by the other schools that they have attended, and oftentimes sort of just end up with us. And we are delighted beyond anything to have them. But I wanted to share a little bit of the demographics that highlight some of the places that we really need to put some attention. So last week we had our equity team came to our staff meeting and shared the data from OSPI as far as our demographics. Just specifically, I'm speaking about Open Doors, which if you don't know, that is only one of our many options that we have at Heights campus. And so Open Doors is made up of students who are behind in credits, often trauma impacted. And I wanted to compare some of our demographic data with the other high schools in the district. So I'm going to share for some of these pieces, some of our higher numbers and in comparison. So for African American Indian and Alaska Native students, our percentage in Open Doors is 2.4%. The next highest is ITech at 0.8%. Black and African American students, we're right about same with Bay at 3.9%. They're at 4%. Hispanic and Latino students, we are at 37.1%, which is not the highest. We're behind Fort a little bit by their 44.6%.
Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander is 7.8% in open doors. The next is Fort at 5.5. Jumping down to what relates to our transportation issues at Heights, our low income is 64.1%, which is just a little bit behind the 70% over at Fort. Homelessness, we have 18.6% of our students are homeless. The next highest of the high schools is 6.8% at Fort. So you'll notice quite a gap there. And then our students with disabilities, we serve 19.2% of our students. Our students with disabilities, the next highest number is 14.6. So you can see that this data really highlights some disproportionalities in the numbers that we serve. So in regards to the things that Ms. Sloan said as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearl. And next we have Al Wood.
My name's Al Wood. I'm a grandpa and taxpayer. So I'm impressed that we've got some state champions. Congratulations, you seem to do a good job there. But I'm also concerned about some of the other things that you're targeting and spending the money on. And in trying to discover where this is going, I've gone through a lot of research on contacting different individuals on the LGBTQ committee and ask them simply, can you give me a definition of equity? And immediately I get a lot of almost like attacks. And I'm simply asking for a simple definition. I get none. They want to know what mine is. It's not my term. I have no definition. I need to know what you are meaning by it. And from that, I know how to make a decision or not. And all I can get is a lot of chaos and trouble. And in the course of this, I'm one of the guilty ones of putting up this no signs out there. And it was really funny. The community of fairness, the community of acceptance and all this. I have so many signs that were chainsawed down. And I put them back up. That's inclusion. Really? Come on. So I don't care what the words are, the actions seem to follow. And it reminds me of Chuck Knox, famous coach for the Seattle Seahawks, when he had to deal with some of his players' stuff. They'd come in and try to give all these reasons, excuses and everything. And he goes, guys, I can't hear your words for your actions. And so I think we need to have a little better open communication through this so we can get some good situations. My daughter's a para in the Spokane School District. I just talked to her the other night, and the stuff they expect her to do. When they have the most difficult kid in that whole school, who do they call? The least educated as far as the education. And some of the teachers talk to her like she's nothing. Yet that's the person they call when they got the most chaos. She's well known. And she talks to me about how it's so difficult to be heard by the administration. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have Richard Erickson.
Rick Erickson, resident, taxpayer, senior citizen, and very concerned citizen. And I'd like to say happy Valentine's Day to everyone here. And let there be no doubt that this is a day to express that we really do love our kids. And we appreciate our teachers very much. We really do. But I do not appreciate the policies being handed down from Seattle that are running our schools into the ground. I appreciate that I commend the board tonight for allowing the students to be awarded excellence awards along with the teachers that teach them. The community engagement, said that they really need to hear from the community. And I'm very pleased to see the crowd that's here tonight. Well, if they want to hear and be guided by the community, those students shouldn't be leaving. They should be hearing what the parents and grandparents have to say here, as well as the teachers. Otherwise, you're just living in a bubble. If that all you're going to hear are the policies that are promulgated within the school. The core values. You can find the core values that started this country in the Constitution. Are we teaching a class that includes the study of the Constitution anymore? Our curriculum is really entirely dependent on, we're not trying to be social engineers here. In the past, our work ethic was not based on equity. It was based on equality of opportunity. And it was based in short on hard work, education, achievement. It was meritocracy that, built this country. We have all different types of skills and special abilities, and we should be allowed to pursue those. We don't need to tell people what to think. We need to teach them how to think. And critical thinking is so important in this world. And the equality word was replaced by equity. That means dumbing everybody down to the exact same result, it's a cookie cutter mold for everybody. We're individuals, but we really need a basic education. We have a diverse culture coming into this country right now, and we need to really educate what this country is built on. We don't need all the new cultures, values brought over here. We don't need to see what the Soviet Union values. We don't need to see what Cuba values. We don't need to see what Venezuela values. We need to. Thank you for just listening. And I'm sorry that I winged it tonight, but
Thank you, Richard.
that's me.
That concludes our public comment time. We appreciate everyone's time and comments. We are now going to move into our action items. The first on the list is approval of minutes of our January regular board meeting, January 17th committee of the whole, and our January 24th study session meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or questions? No. We will move to a vote. All those in favor in approving minutes, Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. We have items on our consent agenda, G and H. This is a slate of items set for approval under our instructional and administrative support. And we also have items under our fiscal support services. Just a reminder that we have discussed these items in our last committee of the whole meeting. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion or comments? Seeing there's no discussion, we're going to put into a vote. Director Decker?
Approve.
Director Sproul?
Approve.
Director Barros?
Approve.
Director Smith?
Approve.
And I also vote to approve, so the motion passes. We don't have any regular business, right? Times. So we are now moving into our Board of Directors reports. Do any of our directors have anything they would like to report to our community? No? Thank you, everyone. We are now going to recess into an executive session. The subject is a personnel to discuss the performance of a public employee. No action to follow. When we return, we will just be adjourning the meeting and we won't have any action items. We anticipate this will take about 30 minutes. Muchas gracias and to everyone who attended, and we are now in recess. I am returning from our executive session. It is now 7:30. Our executive session has ended. No action was taken. Thank you.